As we take a look at development around the Naira notes policy. On October 26, 2022, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, with the approval of the president, announced the Naira redesign policy entailing the issuing of new Naira notes to replace the existing 200, 500, and 1,000 Naira. And all other denominations, which includes 150 Naira, 20 Naira, 10 Naira, and 5 Naira, were to continue to be in circulation, while the current 200 Naira, 500 Naira, and 1,000 Naira notes will cease to be legal tender in the country after January 31st, 2023. Now, with about 2 weeks to the January 31st deadline for old Naira notes to cease as legal tender, there is intense pressure on the central bank to review the implementation of the Naira redesign policy, as businesses as well as citizens across the country are facing multiple challenges. And most are resorting to various electronic payment channels to carry out their transactions on account of scarcity of the new notes. However, even after the weekly cash withdrawal limits for individuals and corporate entities were adjusted for 100,000 from 100,000 and 500,000 to 500,000 and 5 million respectively, many say not much has changed. Joining me via Zoom to look at this, he is an investment strategy manager with Afrinvest West Africa, Mr. Temitope Omosuyi. Mr. Omosuyi, thank you so much for your time. It's good to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me, Tulu.
Yes, I don't know how worried you are, but many of us are worried. I don't know if you've gotten the Naira notes. You tell us the new Naira notes. But many of us are still going to ATMs and we still see the old notes out of the ATM machines. Now, what do you think is wrong? Some say maybe there's a logistic challenge. Maybe something is wrong somewhere. What are you thinking? What is running through your mind about this?
All right. Thank you so much, Tolu, for that question. When policies like new currency notes is initiated, you expect that, there are challenges that come with it. This is actually expected. That is the major reason behind sandbox and pilot test for new programs, policies, and initiative. But this time, I think the constraint has to do with the time frame. We got the policy or the new notes less than 2 months, and in less than 15 days, the old notes will cease to be legal tender.
Mr. Omosuyi, please go ahead and make your point. Thank you.
All right. So regarding the challenges around access to the new notes, yes, it's quite obvious that a number of Nigerians have complained that they don't have access to the new notes. That is one of the several challenges that Nigerians have to grapple with. In addition to some people are not even willing to accept it, particularly in the informal sector, in our local market, they don't even want to accept it because some of them think that it's a fake note or, they are still skeptical. So all of those challenges, yes, they are bound to happen. They are expected. But I think the CBN is actually working assiduously, to ensure that every Nigerian has access to the new note. As a matter of fact, I remember about 2 weeks ago, the deputy governor in charge of currency operation at the CBN clearly stated that banks should stop giving out the new notes over the counter, and they should ensure that all ATMs, all ATM has, the new notes. So I think the onus now lies on banks to ensure that Nigerians have, access to the new notes. Yes, the CBN is trying as much as possible. I also read in the news that, the CBN has even marked some people to go into major markets to educate, people about the new notes, the importance of the new notes, the security embedded, and why the CBN is actually taking this decision at this critical time. So challenges are bound to happen. It is typical of every policy, every new policy program for this kind of challenges to come with it. But then you and I know that Nigerians, if you don't give a deadline, we don't usually comply with rules, policies, and program, even though there are speculation, there are speculations that the CBN may want to extend maybe by some days or so. That has not been ascertained yet. However, from the CBN, it has been stated clearly that they have provided sufficient new notes for commercial banks to give to Nigeria, to get across to Nigerians. In addition to that, they've even said that any bank that does not comply will be fined, will face certain penalties. So all of these have been done by the CBN to ensure that every Nigerian has access to the new notes.
But let's talk about the cashless policy and all efforts that has been made so far to make sure that it goes round, if I'm allowed to use that term. Many still say that we lack that infrastructure to be able to actualize this in its totality. I have my complaints. I can tell you, yesterday I still had issues with POS machines, and I'm yet to get my money back. So, likewise, all Nigerians. So, what do we do to address the fundamentals of the cashless policy?
All right, thank you very much, Tolu. I'm always of the opinion, in fact, I align with your thoughts on the fact that the Nigerian economy has, a lot of challenges that have continued to impede innovations particularly from the Central Bank of Nigeria. And what even made it worse is because most times we don't even give time to allow people to adjust to some of this innovation. For instance, you just mentioned how you experience, failed transaction maybe through POS. A number of people also go through challenges using internet banking. So yes, infrastructure is a major drawback. And I think I can be bold to say that even in terms of the way we go about cashless policy, maybe to some extent, it seems we are a bit aggressive. Because if you look at some nations, some economies that are cashless, they still give certain room for people to adjust. For instance, if you look at cashless policy is also expected to affect people in rural areas, and these people don't really have access to the conventional bank. They don't have access to commercial banks, ATM, the way you and I, we can actually get one on our street. And if you look at statistics as well, a bit of numbers are quite disturbing. For instance, if you look at the number of commercial banks in Nigeria per 1 million people, it has reduced substantially. It was about 65 per 1 million people in 2014. It has declined to about 46. And this, if you compare this to a number of economies that are largely cashless, we are far behind. So it seems something is actually wrong. For instance, if you look at China in terms of number of commercial bank branches to 1 million people is over 100. In South Africa, you see that it is over 30 globally. In fact, number of commercial bank as a percentage or to 1 million people is 39. So Nigeria is shortfall in that regard. But then you may want to say that, yes, we may reduce the number of bank branches, but technology or the number of ATMs that we have around are growing. So that should substitute for the number of commercial bank branches you have around. When you look at it from that angle again, Nigeria is also on the back foot, because if you look at the number of ATM as well, per 1 million people in Nigeria compared to other countries is also way low. In fact, for instance, Nigeria, in terms of number of ATM per 1 million people, is barely 20, compared to in South Africa over 34, in China over 81, right? And another point that also consolidates what I said about the aggression in terms of how it seems we are not taking cognizance of the uniqueness of our economy or our peculiar challenges. So these challenges, include infrastructure. You have mentioned less than half of Nigerian population, has access to electricity. In terms of internet access as well, there's still a major challenge in that regard. And I think I should also emphasize an important point. One of the policies that have been introduced recently include the limit to cash withdrawal. The CBN has stated clearly that Nigerians can only withdraw about 20K per day, 20,000 naira per day. This is equivalent to about maybe $40, right, per day. But then, if you look at economies that are over 90% cashless. In fact, for instance, UK, you can withdraw as much as £300, in fact, to £500, as much as between £300 to $300 to $1,000. And if you take it to the top two in terms of cashless policy, top two economies in terms of cashless policy, which is Norway and Finland. In Finland, you can do as much as £500, and in Finland, you can do as much as £1,000. So going by these metrics and these numbers, it's quite clear that it seems we are a lot more aggressive with our cashless policy than expected. Although cashless policy is quite good because to a large extent, it will consolidate the effectiveness of monetary policy, and in fact, it's a reflection of a modern economy. I would say that cashless policy is just a means, is just a means to an end, right? Or it's just a reflection of of sophistication of an economy. So if we are able to address other factors that are impeding the Nigerian economy, then we don't have to bother about how to tell people to embrace technology innovations, because you and I, we want to always embrace seamless technology that makes technology that make life easier for us. We don't need to force people. However, if there are constraints, like I've just mentioned, the short time that is given to Nigeria to to comply with certain rules, limitation in terms of electricity access and internet access. In fact, in advanced economies, right, if not for a number of fintech companies that we are now seeing in Nigeria, that they give ATM card for free. You can get credit card for free. Commercial banks still, charge for you to get an ATM card. Look at a country where people still grapple with poverty, where income level is still significantly low. This is not typical of what is obtainable in a number of cashless economy. You can get, certain financial products and services, including, credit card for free. So all of these things must be addressed so that we don't find ourselves in a situation where we are putting, the cart before the horse.
Risk around security, of course, around online transactions is something that is also worrisome. Online recently, a lady is even threatening to commit suicide because of what happened to her account. An amount of millions of naira removed from her account, and she's not hearing what she wants to hear from the bank. And now, what do you think about the risk, and what more can be done to secure all of these transactions? It's very important.
I understand that, yes, technology, innovation come with so many challenges, risks that are, being addressed by the central bank. As a matter of fact, it is typical of all developments that definitely will come with challenges. And for e-banking, the major challenges are fraud, like you mentioned, and failed transactions. We've seen significant increase in the number of failed transactions. So I think, yes, that is a major challenge that the CBN has even tried as much as possible to enhance communication between Nigeria and the authority. And they've, social media has also helped to a large extent. You see a number of persons go on social media, Twitter, to talk about, certain challenges around access to or usage of e-banking services. and they get some swift response compared to what they would have gotten if there was no social media platform. So definitely, these are part of the challenges that come with innovation and development. But then I can say, categorically that, the impact of e-banking, the impact of cashless policy is quite evident in the economy, particularly on the angle of, ease of doing business to a large extent. In addition to that, in terms of helping financial system stability and the resilience of the Nigerian economy. For instance, imagine a situation where Nigeria was still on the back foot in terms of e-banking and in 2020. Just imagine if we were not really innovative. A lot of people will struggle with economic activities. But despite restriction in 2020 on the back of the COVID-19 pandemic, people still, transact. There were transactions and all of that, thanks to the innovation, thanks to the significant adoption of e-banking. So I think yes, the progress on addressing challenges that come with adoption of e-banking, products and services that come from the financial system, yes, authorities and other stakeholders, I mean commercial banks among others, are working to, to ensure that all of these are addressed. And as a matter of fact, we know that banks, they consistently send messages on how people can identify fraud. We also see that from the CBN. And, the onus also lie on each individual to ensure that we carefully keep some sensitive information, to ourselves, because once there are compromises, once you compromise certain information, you get infiltrated and one is susceptible to fraud. I think it's an ongoing thing, and I believe Nigeria is better and will continue to get better at it.
I must thank you so much for your time there, Mr. Temitope Omosuyi, Investment Strategy Manager, Afrinvest West Africa. Do enjoy the rest of your day.